the long story short is they noticed I had really low platelets. And one thing led to another. It's a story for another time. I get referred to, my mom was very emotional about this, an oncologist, because they think I might have some form of cancer because I have this. Welcome back, friends. What's going on? This is Jason, Actualization. And in this video today, I'm going to be talking about what is a really well-known, a really simple blood test that all doctors are clearly well-versed in. And most people have probably heard of before. Maybe you've heard of this before. It's called a serum creatinine, not to be confused with creatine, which is a really popular muscle building, bodybuilding, ergogenic aid. But it's also found naturally in really high quantities in red meat. So what creatinine is the metabolic breakdown product of muscle and creatine metabolism. And so this is a really important, but honestly completely misunderstood blood test, because what doctors see it as is a marker of your kidney function, also known as renal function. That's just the medical jargon. And so the idea is that they're going to measure the amount in your blood. And when they do that, the higher that is, then the lower it's assumed your kidney filtration and function is. And there's actually, for any pharmacy students out there, there's an equation called the Cock-Croft-Gault equation. I know it sounds a little bit funny, but literally they, in pharmacy school, will just like cement this into your mind. And you take 140, subtract your age, multiply that by your ideal body weight in kilograms, and divide that by the product of 72 times your serum creatinine in milligrams per deciliter. And then this would always trip students up. You'd have to multiply by 0.85 for females. And that right there already shows you the, in a sense, imperfect arbitrary nature of this equation, right? The fact that you have to adjust for females versus males. And that's because on average, men tend to have more lean body mass. There's actually a really good paper published in the Frontiers in Nutrition. I've got it pulled up right now on my laptop in September of 2022. And what it's titled is Serum Creatinine as an Indicator of Lean Body Mass in Vegetarians and Omnivores. And what they did is they had two groups and they compared between those groups how much protein were they eating per day, how much lean body mass do they have, skeletal muscle tissue, and how strong is their grip strength. And what they did was they stratified based on this classification. If they were a vegetarian, they had to, over the past year, say that they did not consume fish, chicken, or meat. And then to be an omnivore, you had to at least 3 times per week over the last year consume those products, fish, poultry, and meat. And so what they found were statistically significant differences in favor of the omnivores in terms of lean body mass, grip strength, protein intake. And as we know, the DIOS score for animal-derived proteins is much higher than plant-derived. So it's no surprise the findings of this study, but it also corroborates with personal experiences that I have just with the healthcare system. For those of you who are familiar with my health history, having suffered from eosinophilic esophagitis throughout my late teens and early 20s, I was referred to an allergist. And what we would do is take monthly eosinophil counts in my blood. It's a type of white blood cell, and it's a marker of inflammation. And then when we started doing these tests, it was like, if you look for something hard enough, you're gonna find it. So we started noticing, oh, like my platelets were off. One thing that you learn in pharmacy school that unfortunately isn't always embraced in practice is that we don't treat metrics, we treat mankind. We treat people and not numbers. You don't want to be chasing numbers. You want to see how a person is actually going along and getting along in their life. And the numbers just serve as a benchmark or a proxy for that. But the long story short is they noticed I had really low platelets, and one thing led to another. It's a story for another time. I get referred to, my mom was very emotional about this, an oncologist, because they think I might have some form of cancer because I have this autoimmune condition called ITP. And they then noticed I had an elevated serum creatinine, which they assumed meant that I had some form of kidney disease. And so with that Cockcroft-Gault equation, basically the higher the serum creatinine, the more that's in your blood, the worse your kidneys are functioning. And the fundamental problem with this equation, and I did my best to very humbly explain this to the nephrologist that I was referred to, Dr. Redding, nice enough guy. I think he maybe took things a little bit personally and I wasn't questioning his authority. I was just trying to explain to him the fact that I didn't have any actual concerns about my kidney function. I just felt like they were kind of passing me along from one person to the next, to these unnecessarily siloed specialties. And the nephrologist ended up challenging me with a 24-hour urine collection, which I happily obliged. I was actually a pharmacy student at the time. Luckily, my apartment was very close off campus, so I was able to just not drink as much that day. And then in between classes, I would drive back to my apartment and I would keep this preserved in the refrigerator, the urine sample. And it ended up just being the case that I excrete a lot more creatinine than the average person because I have more muscle mass and a higher protein diet than the average individual. And actually, a couple of months ago, I went and I got some routine blood work. And actually, I can pull that up as well on my phone just to show you guys. I really want to be as transparent as I possibly can on this channel because I have a lot of personal experience that corroborates and is really interwoven with my philosophy on achieving optimal health. And I feel like you all deserve to actually see that firsthand. So typically the normal reference range for serum creatinine for men is 0.7 to 1.3 milligrams per deciliter. And then for women, it's 0.6 to 1.1 milligrams per deciliter. And in this equation, the higher that serum creatinine, the lower your milliliter per minute estimated glomerular filtration rate is what it's called, eGFR. And you don't have to remember this. It's just basically your kidney function. And the lower that is, the more concern there is for kidney damage. And I'm just going to give you guys a quick reference before showing you the actual numbers so you can see how deceiving this is. Normal kidney function is considered to be greater than, say, 120 milliliters per minute. And we're not concerned if it's between, say, 90 and 120. But if it's below 90, like if it's 60 to 89, there is mild kidney damage presumed. If it's between 30 and 59, there's moderate damage. And then if you get less than 30, then there's severe kidney damage. And less than 15 is going to be like kidney failure, like you need to go on dialysis. And in pharmacy school, this equation was so important because a lot of drugs that get excreted through the kidneys, you have to account for the fact that someone may not have the greatest kidney function. So with that said, I'm going to show you guys what my kidney function actually is. And I'm going to show you guys, just in case you're curious, a back and forth that I had with my provider, Alyssa, who I have a very good working relationship with. And what I'm going to do right now is go into just the My Health section of this app. And I'm going to show you guys the results from, looks like April 22nd of this year. So almost to the day, 2 months ago. And if we scroll down, this is a CMP, a complete metabolic panel. You can see the sodium, potassium, chloride, CO2, the BUN, and the serum creatinine. So you can see 1.32. They say the normal range is 0.6 to 1.3. For men, it's generally considered to be 0.7 to 1.3, but close enough. 1.32 is above the reference range. So let's see what she had to say about that. So I'm just going to pull up my messaging within this app and just read this out loud to you guys. So she said, labs overall look okay. Lipids are great. A1C was normal. Liver function looks good. CBC, white blood count and platelets, a tiny bit low. They have been in the past, but don't seem to persist. Regarding renal function, GFR is stable. Creatinine was a little high, which was surprising. What do you think about repeating CBC and BMP in 1 to 2 months? So this isn't the first time that I've had a doctor be concerned about my elevated creatinine. But again, I have more muscle mass than the average individual and a higher protein intake. So I said, hey, Alyssa, thanks for reaching out. I'm quite comfortable with my lab results. Several years ago, I was referred to a nephrologist due to kidney concerns. I told you guys about this. He had me do a 24-hour urine collection to assess how much creatinine I was excreting. I am a recreational bodybuilder, so my serum creatinine is always high, but I excrete a ton in my urine, and my GFR was above 120 milliliters per minute when calculated properly. So yeah, my kidney function ended up being really, really good. I believe there's also a mechanism related to my intense weightlifting that lowers the leukocyte counts. That's the white blood cell count. And also, I haven't been sick in so long that my white blood cell count would really have no reason to be elevated. And her response to this, not surprisingly, was, that's awesome. I figured as much. I will check on your referral. Thanks for letting me know you hadn't yet heard. So I was also talking to her about a referral to get a follow-up endoscopy. So 14 years ago, I was diagnosed with this rare inflammatory condition called eosinophilic esophagitis. And I've really been trying to move the needle in these online Facebook groups, but I've been getting a lot of resistance to people who aren't fond of the idea that, for example, industrial seed oils are incredibly inflammatory. And just as someone who's landed the plane and been in remission for so long, I'm really just trying to give these people hope. So I'm going back, even though I don't have any signs or symptoms. I'm just going to be paying out of pocket just to get the after imaging, if you will. I was kind of a one and done and only had the upper endoscopy performed just that one time. And then I was just told to monitor based off of symptoms. So guys, serum creatinine is a metabolic breakdown product, and it's something that is going to be higher if you are physically fit, if you do have more muscle mass than the average individual, if you do consume more protein than the RDA suggests. And what I would say is that that's actually good. If you have low serum creatinine, I'm literally concerned for you. I've got a picture right here, a screenshot from a 24-hour urine collection that I did recently assessing toxic heavy metal burden. And the normal reference range of creatinine, I'm actually surprised that they measured this, was 900 to 3000. And I'm not sure what the units are. I believe it's milligrams per 24 hours. And mine was 3240. So yeah, of course, the amount in my blood is going to be a little bit higher than the average individual, but so too is the amount that I'm excreting. You got to look at both sides of the equation to get the big picture. Guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. Comment down below. Have you ever had a serum creatinine drawn before? And what is your diet looking like nowadays? Are you more on the omnivorous 50-50 side? Do you lean more carnivore, or do you lean more plant-based? And how do you think that's impacting these things? Grip strength, lean body mass, and overall quality of life. Guys, comment down below, like and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, until next time, friends, find your freedom. Take care, guys. Peace.